talk about disaster response. Well, for anything, right? Everybody who knows me knows I like to talk quite a lot. But definitely, I will hope this is going to be interesting for you guys. I'm Dr. Becca. I'm a veterinarian with the National Shelter Medicine team and with Best Friends Animal Society, right? And today we're going to be talking about when disaster happens, disaster response essential for animal shelters. So we're going to try to make this as interactive as we can and so we can try really to not make this boring. Uh, First of all, I want to thank you guys really to be here. I know how hard it is for you guys to find time to attend our webinar, like in the middle of like afternoon. So thank you for doing that. I love talking about emergency response, right? But I will not go in depth. We're going to talk about different things, but I would not be going in depth on any of like the concepts. The idea is to give a very broad idea of what we need to do and how we respond to, and the importance of being ready to respond. I think that is the most important thing. And the title is When It Happens, because it's really that. It's not about a matter of if it's going to happen. It's really when it happens. Some areas we are more prone to it, some areas we less, but it's really everywhere. It can just happen. So, and feel free, right, as we're going through, like just put any questions you may have on the chat. And very, very important, here, best friends, we do have our emergency response team. With this QR code, you get to our toolkit, resources. There's so much you can do there. It can help you create really your response. So if you have any questions, like, of course, you can reach out to me. My email is going to be at the end, but also you can ask them. You can go to that emergency preparedness toolkit and really get a lot of great stuff there and reach out to them. They are super experienced. They have done this over and over. I have done quite a few myself, but they also have more and broader experience than I do. So just feel free to reach out to them. And just it froze, like, love this. Uh, Most important thing, and we always need to say that because we are very passionate people, and we sometimes we just like to deploy ourselves. There is a disaster happening here or then, and we just jump on the car, and I'm gonna go there and help. There are some things that we need to do before that. Most important, we need to like just make sure that we are aligned with whoever is coordinating the disaster response in that area, right? We need to look into the emergency management agency in that area and see how you can help. There are some things, some trainings, and some things that it's really required, but we don't want to put ourselves at risk and end up to being another person that the rescue teams need to rescue. So we're trying to do the right thing, but then we end up needing them to rescue us. So just make sure if you're going to do something, if you're going to jump on a response, definitely help is super welcome, but we need to be prepared. And also we need to be organizing our deployment with emergency management agencies from that specific area that need some response happening. The ASV guidelines, for the ones that don't know, the Association of Shelter Veterinarian Guidelines, there is a new edition coming out in 2022, and they include a disaster response on this new version of the guidelines. And this is really because we know, like, it's more and more, it's an important things for shelters to know, and more shelters are involved in disaster response. So we need to make sure that we are really being aware that what our responsibility and what we need to do so we can be part of a response. Can be in our shelter, outside. It can be different things that we can do, but definitely we need to be ready to respond if something happens. And what the guidelines are saying is that all shelters should be prepared to respond when directly affected by a disaster. Disasters include natural events and human events like cruelty cases, violence, toxic chemical spills. Advanced planning is critical to safeguard animal welfare and to protect human health and safety. It's so often that we don't have a plan, and then our staff end up putting their lives at risk to save our animals. We don't want to see our animals drowning. We don't want to see them burning. We don't want to see bad things happening to them. And a lot of times, if we don't have a plan, we may end up like putting ourselves at risk and losing lives because we just want to save them. And if we have a plan, we can prevent to put additional risk to whatever whatever disaster is happening or threat is happening around us. And they talk about like the core protocols that we need to have, right? So it's really like having some basic organizational incident command systems, knowing how that happens, what is going to be like, how that it's who's going to be who on that response, who are responsible for what, right? Having a plan outlined, like knowing how we're going to prevent diseases, knowing how we're going to preemptively empty our shelters if that's the need. Who's going to be the partners we're going to send our animals to if that's what's necessary to happen? And we're going to talk more about all of that. But we need to know what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. So when it happens, we are ready. And this is really, again, included in the guidelines because more and more shelters are involved in response, right? Like in our shelters or helping others or helping our community that is being affected by something. So that is one thing. And do you know, like, this is just for us, like, you can put on the chat if you want to, or just like think about it. Do you know what disasters have happened in your shelter or in your community in the past 5 years? Do you know what was done, what worked, what not? How well informed are you about like what happened and how we prevent things from like happening, or what didn't happen? How do I make sure that it's better this time, the response is better this time, so I'm improving? So just think about it, like what are really the situations that they may have. Yeah, hurricanes, definitely, especially everybody who's down there in Florida, that's exactly what we think about. And that's where most of my experience is like fires, right? Like we have the LA fires, tornadoes. Oh my God, yeah, that is so severe snowstorm. I would say this the past 2 weekends ago, right? We have like I'm based in Charleston, South Carolina. We have like an inch and a half of snow. That's like a snowstorm for us. So it's really a lot. And one of the shelters just preemptively empty, completed the shelter. We're going to talk about them in another situation, but that's it. They got their fosters to come and get all the dogs because they knew they wouldn't be able to get to the shelter to care for the animals. So those are power outrageous. I love that you put it here because that is also a disaster, right? What's going to happen? How are you going to take care? What are all the things that are in your fridges? How are you going to do your pet point or whatever shelter management software that you use, right? So those are the things that we need to be thinking of. So great responses. Thank you. So what are disasters? You guys mentioned a few, right? Like definitely we have like the fires, hurricane, tornadoes, earthquakes, mudslide, like flooding, severe weather, right? Like extreme heat. Like what do we do? Extreme heat and power outrage. Like, oh my God, like that's not the perfect combination, or extreme cold and power outrages, right? We have like IT connective outrage. We cannot connect with our software. What do you do? How do you move your animals? How do whatever you need, right? Like public health event. Everybody here probably remembers about COVID, right? Like, so that was definitely a disaster, and how much we needed to adapt, how much we need to figure out what to do on the go. But like the ones that had the shelters that had some disaster preparedness, like experience, some they just adapt for what was happening. But definitely there was a lot of new things happening there, right? Staffing challenges. If we have like 10 staff members and then suddenly, oh, that's a good one. Definitely, if we have that power, sorry, the staffing challenge, we have 10 staff members and 9 are out with salmonella. Like, how do you care for your animals? Like, we need to have plans for that because those things do happen, right? What about active shooter? Do you have any plan? Have you thought about that? How staff is going to let other staff members, like how are we going to communicate? How are we going to like protect everybody that we can? How we can prevent deaths, right? Terrorism, like cyber attacks, like just affecting all your operations, things like that. Sometimes we think about just natural disasters, but there are so many things that can happen, including, right? I think that here we're going to show a few examples, but definitely we have like flooding, right? This is just an example. I just like this picture, but it's really like flooding happening in Asheville, North Carolina during Helena hurricane, like 2 years ago, right? Like this is a animal haven in Asheville, and they are a farm animal sanctuary. Where they are taking the pictures where the animals are. See, they were really close to the water. That shed there, that house there, it's their office and the store they had, like just went away. What do you do? The bridge, it's gone. Like they didn't have like if the water had come up a little bit higher, would we have got their animals? They were safe, nothing happened. Took a while to fix the bridge so they could get out, in and out, and all of that. But that they were at risk there, right? Like and this cat, or like the picture with the cat is just some very bad storms they had in the south of Brazil a couple of years ago, and it took ages, right? Like the disaster preparedness there is not the same as we have it here, and definitely it took quite some time for even for the response teams to be able to get there and to start helping those animals, those families, and so on. So it makes a huge difference having a plan, not having a plan. Sometimes it just comes and we are not planning. It's not we are not prepared for it, but we need to know like some we need to have some outlets. We need to have some things, some emergency things that we can do. Uh, like this is an example, right? Like definitely for depending on the shelter, like this is a case that we had, like I had a few years ago, but it was just like 30 Pomeranians, Chihuahuas coming in the back of a truck, right? I was 100%, 150% out of like over capacity already. That was an emergency. What do I do with all of those tiny little creatures that need a care right away? The caretakers couldn't care for them anymore, and I needed to do something. So, like, definitely for my staff, it was like impossible, overwhelming, and all of that. So, what do we do? Right? Like, we need to have plans for that over like huge influx of animals coming. How do we have partners? What do we do? What about oops, not going again. Telling you. Um, there you go. What about like chemical spills, right? Like what do you do? Like, and I'm not, this is an example of a cute little penguin, but it could be like a dog coming in, like it happens everywhere. And if you have like railroads next to you, do you know like what they are carrying? Do you know what they are transporting? What are the chemicals? If there is an accident, do you know what can spill there? What do you need to do about it? Those are the things we need to be thinking of, right? This is another example. Like it was just a colleague of mine. She had like, I don't know, 39 uh, wild dogs coming in. And this is just a picture of the San Diego Zoo, but it's just like to give the example of that. What do you do? Like you rescue dogs, cats, that's it. And then suddenly you have 39 coming in, wild dogs. You don't know how to care for them, what to do with them. You need to have plans for those extreme cases. Like you don't need to know everything by like exactly how it's going to be, but I need to know like, oh, if this kind of animals come in, like I have these partners, I can have like I can call them and they will come and get these animals. So having MOUs in place, have options for them, so you don't need to figure it out as you go, because if you are dealing sometimes maybe really stressful and we are not getting to the solution quicker enough, right? And the most important, other than do not deploy yourself, that I said it was really important. The second thing is really personal preparedness. You cannot do anything if you're not taking care of you, of your family, of your animals. If you don't have, if you cannot take care of your community, if you are not taking care of, you cannot be doing an emergency response if your head is concerned about what's happening with your cat at home, because it's just like it's there and your elderly mom living in that home. Like you cannot, like you need to make sure that you take care of yourself. So it's really about having your emergency preparedness checklist, right? Having those backpacks and all of those things. Be ready for the things that happen more often in your home. Have your pet disaster kit, right? Make sure you have what's going to help you as a staff of that organization to be ready to care for your animals as well. Who's going to care if you are helping with a disaster response? This is one of the best things. Petco Love Loss. This is something. For the ones that don't know, it's a facial recognition app that is it's great. It's super easy. And the most important thing is that you just need your phone and a picture of your dog that you take. And so if something happens, you don't know it just happened, right? It's something that you do not predict. You can just upload a picture of your dog there, and that's it. And for the shelters, it's great that you sign up for it, because every dog that is coming in, it's being uploaded at Petco Love Lost. Like you can do everything automated if you have pet. I think if you have a Pet Point, Shelter Love, Chameleon, I'm not sure each one's that, but I think most of them are really have a way of doing everything that is just automated. And then like you are going through that response as a shelter and as an individual, it's very easy to try to connect, like to really like, okay, I uploaded a picture of my dog. The shelter is uploading the picture of the dogs that are coming in, automated, and then that just matches, and I know my dog is at that location, and I'm going to go there as soon as I can. If that location is, if I can call that location, I will let them know that my dog is there, and I'm going to go there as soon as I can, something like that. So it's definitely it's a great resource for shelters. It's very easy for the community members. It's great to be like really sharing the word about it because it can help very easily everybody. Like just have all the guides that you have, right? Like this is an example of Charleston, right? But that we have the hurricane guide for South Carolina, but there are other, each state has its own, each state has, so you need to know like in cases of hurricane or tsunami or what is it, your evacuation routes, what zones are you, make sure you know what you need to do during when something happens. And all of the disasters apps or like emergency apps that are out there in your area, make sure you sign up for those and you have like those emergency things like notifications coming to your app really quick. So that is extremely, extremely helpful. And I'm going to share this with you. Let's hope that it works. We just tested, but this is a video from the Charleston Animal Society. It was a response that was done there a few years ago, I think 2022. I will let you listen and think about it. But it's really like a workplace plan can mean the difference between life and death for your staff and for your animals. It's an essential part of your operations. Just going along with the ASV guidelines and with everything that we said, we need to have plans. We need to know how we're going to act because we don't want to go through situations like this. And it's very touching. It's very emotional. And I just hope you appreciate the message that comes with it.
When Hurricane Ida was bearing down on the Gulf Coast this past August, forecasters had it coming right at us here in Gulfport, Mississippi.
This is Ida as seen from space. Millions of people are in its path.
And I think a lot of people are quite scared down there tonight.
Yeah, in the days leading up to the storm, all I could think of was what was I going to do with 500 animals in our care? We're less than a mile from the Gulf of Mexico. Awful scenarios panicked me, remembering all the animals who drowned at our old shelter during Hurricane Katrina. Just 12 hours before Ida made landfall, risking their own lives and safety, in drove Charleston Animal Society, like a guardian angel.
I know that one of the things that really motivated our disaster response team for this rescue was that we knew that South Mississippi Humane Society had been the site of an unimaginable tragedy during Hurricane Katrina.
It's getting ready to break, guys.
Animals drowned in their cages. We were unable to get to them.
Still be haunting.
Yes.
Where the old shelter is located is on a golf course by the Back Bay in Gulfport, by Gulfport Lake. So when Katrina hit, when the water got pushed in, it flooded that location, and they all drowned.
It was an unprecedented disaster at the time and still ranks as one of the most destructive hurricanes that the Gulf has seen.
We also knew just last year they had gone through Hurricane Zeta, which hit Gulfport, leaving their staff with no power to care for their animals, and we didn't want them to go through that again.
With the amount of staff that we had during a pandemic, were we going to be able to care for the animals had we taken another direct hit like that?
So we arrived at midnight as one of the last pet evacuations before Hurricane Ida hit, and we pulled 50 dogs for rescue, relaying them to shelters around Florida for adoption.
Had we not had Charleston Animal Society come to our rescue, we would have been in tough shape.
From the bottom of my heart and all the animal lovers across the Mississippi Gulf Coast, we want to thank Charleston Animal Society for saving so many lives.
That's it. Like I always want to cry when I watch it. Like it's like I cannot imagine being in their situation, right? I think that it's like, can you imagine like what would you do, right? Like 500 animals on your care, like all of that coming. We need to be prepared. Sometimes there is no time to prepare, but we don't want to. If we can, definitely, it's very important for us to be able to do that. It's hunting for everybody, like for the staff that was there at the time, for the ones that come after, and so on. So it's really about being ready, being able to prepare and act when we need to. And as other organizations that may not be, like, let's say, like some seasons as Charleston at that moment wasn't being hit by hurricane, was able to help, right? For the shelters that have those resources, it's great that you can do that sometimes. So it's definitely, sharing those moments and being able to build and help animals, shelters that do need.
When
Oops,
Hurricane
not
Ida
again,
was
because then I'll cry like crazy. We don't want that enough. So it's really like how we prepare, right? Like I think it's so important for us to be prepared, right? It's really know what type of disasters are likely to happen in our area. So what are the impacts that have previously what disasters have previously impacted our organization? What are the most common disasters that happen in that region, in that community? What are the, like, how worried is your organization about a disaster to happen, right? What is your staff ability to stay in the shelter or the sanctuary or the rescue while that disaster is happening? Sometimes we cannot move all the animals out. Sometimes you have a good building that you can really keep some animals with you. So, but who's going to care for those animals? So how can we have, is there a team, right? With Charleston Animal Society, like what we did at that point with like, or every beginning of season, we would stop and say, hey, let's just who can stay here this year. That we start preparing right at the before the season started, and just like really planning and just have all the plans and people that will be able to stay there that year and so on. So really like looking into those things, right? What are the factors that are more dangerous for that organization? Let's say the organization of my organization is below sea level. So if there is like a storm, I know that I'm going to float, so I need to act upon it. Or I know that my shelter is just, below like some area that is always like it's near an area that have mudslides. So how I'm going to prevent, like how I'm going to protect, how I'm going to act, what are the triggers or other things that I need to be looking for, right? What is the nature of the work that we do, and what is impactful to the public, right? How likely are the public to be upset with us, right? And really like get mad and maybe threat the organization or something like that. Or just like as we said before, also like the violence, is there any chance that a public member will come in and try to shoot someone and be upset that's with someone that doesn't want to return an animal? Like I've been through like and several of us probably like death threats from the public, and that it's upset because you don't want to return, or you're returning an animal, or the animal get adopted and they wanted to adopt, things like there are different things that happen. But really, like a lot of us have been in that situation. So definitely how we prepare, how we prevent, how we protect us and our staff. And here, like, to be prepared, again, it's to know, right, what to do and when, like what are we going to do when a disaster happens, right? So what are the essential services that I need to keep? I'm doing spay and neuter for the community. Do I need to keep doing spay and neuter for the community and even for our shelter pets during a disaster? What are the partnerships that I need to develop, and do I have MOUs with them? What is the evacuation? What is the emergency action plan? The evacuation plan, there is a repetition here, the evacuation order of animals. Do I know which animal I'm gonna be evacuating first? What I'm gonna do with my court cases? What I'm gonna do with the animals that I have on a stray hold? What do I do with them? Do I know who I'm gonna shelter in place for the aggressive animals? How I'm gonna keep them? Should I keep them? Should I not keep them? What do I do? Do I have partners that can take them? Like those things, we cannot take those decisions last minute, right? Like we need to have people, because I have 10 aggressive dogs. Like I cannot keep in my shelter because my shelter is gonna flood. Who is willing to find partners that are willing to keep those animals for you during that period of time? We need to have built that relationship with time. It's very difficult to find like last minute in 5 minutes. Oh, I need to transfer 10 aggressive dogs. Do you want to take them? Right? It's not that simple. Foster plans. What is going to happen with your fosters, right? You have like 300 animals in foster care and everybody's going to evacuate. What happens? Are those 300 animals coming, or those fosters are taking with them? We need to know that, right? When we're going to return to base, when we're going to go back to our, like, what are we going to continue operating, and really like what are we going to, when we're going to come back to our regular operations, right? We need to know all of those things so we can, and really, and the only way we can really help our community is by being ready to help our organization. So it's really that I'm ready to help myself. I know my plan. I know everything, my animals, my family. I know how they are. Now, my organization, I'm going to prepare my organization, and I know how things are, because that's how I'm going to be able to help my community. I'm going to need to help my community after disaster if I have the resources and if the shelter wasn't hit, right? Just like making that clear. Sometimes we can't, but if we can, like, and it's really like it's that line. We need to be ready to help ourselves, help our shelter, and then we look into the community. And there are different ways of helping the community, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So think about this. There is a severe storm overnight, power outrage, internet is down, rising temperatures in dog housing area. And you are in Texas, right? Like it's 110 degrees, closed kennels, right? And your isolation with kennel cough is full. What do you do, right? If you don't have a plan, how do you address that, right? Those things that if I don't have a plan and that is happening, uh, whoever arrives in the morning is going to freak out, right? Like it's just a sauna inside your shelter. And if you don't have a plan, you're just gonna, everybody's gonna be trying to do something, figuring out and running sideways, right? And then the adoption team, or adoption for, they're gonna be concerned about their dogs. The people, like the medical team, is going to be concerned about the dogs in isolation. Everybody, the cats, people are going to be worried about the cats. Everybody's going to be like kind of going and being reactive and trying to figure it out and kind of butt heads, but really not having like an organized response. I'm so sorry. It's going to be like really like creating more chaos instead of really a response, right? We're going to be, even with all the best of intentions, we're just going to amplify all the risks of more animals being infected with kennel cough as we're moving them around like crazy without biosecurity, opening doors that maybe we cannot open, trying to move them to other rescue partners and so on. So we just like, instead of having something organized, we are just going chaotic. Everybody's kind of really despaired and doing. One of the worst things about having not a plan, it's when we start talking with the media. Like, let's know, like, depending on the disaster, you have the media knocking on your door, and then you have people just talking with the media without having, like, when like you don't have a plan, anybody can talk with the media. But if you have a plan, you know, if there is a disaster, this person is responsible for addressing with the media, and only that person knows what to communicate with the media. So there is no miscommunication, there is no misinformation. We can really, so that is a key element of a response as well, because people are going to be knocking on your door, right? So, and if you have like a shelter preparedness, if you have a plan, you have clarity. So whenever that person gets to the shelter in the morning, knows what to do and is going to like just activate the plan, and the actions are going to be coordinated. There is no competition between. We know what to do. So we're going to be updating, we're going to be reassessing what we're doing, but we have a structure and more calm response. And then with that, decreasing risks of other disease, like spreading diseases and so on. Shelter preparedness, right? I think I said it that we can talk about the roles a little bit later of the shelters. Shelters can play multiple roles, right? The most basic one that all play, like a lot of us, is just like, oh my God, it's coming. I'm just going to empty my shelter. I'm just going to move all the animals out because that's the only way I can save them. Or we're going to say, I'm going to move them out because after the hurricane, I know, after the disaster, I know that I'm going to have a lot of stray animals and they need to come in. So I'm going to move all the ones that are out of stray hold, court hold, and so on, empty my shelter as much as I can because I know I'm going to have a huge influx of animals right after. Or I can serve just as a corridor, right? Just be in the middle of the way, helping animals to move from A to B. So we have animals coming from Jacksonville in Florida, and they're going all the way to Boston, Massachusetts, right? And maybe there is a shelter that's kind of in the middle of the way that they can just spend overnight. So it can just be a stop point for those animals that are being moved through the system, right? And that is extremely, extremely helpful for a lot of situations. And I mentioned about those Dorchester poles, like that they not a them. I didn't mention the name, but it was mentioned of a shelter that in South Carolina that emptied because of the 1.5 inches of snow that we had. But we didn't know, and we didn't know how bad it was going to be. And in South Carolina, we're not ready for any snow, so that's it. Like they just emptied. They got all the animals in foster homes, and they do that in every big storm, any hurricane season. We know, like their fosters are amazing, and they did a shelter because the shelter is located in an area that floats, and we don't want to put anybody at risk, right? So it's super, super amazing that they can do that. Very important thing is really like how we can help with our community, as we said, right? Is there an opportunity here for the shelter? Let's say we empty the shelter, we have a few vets, we have our medical team that we can share, so we can send them to like the local human shelter, like homeless shelter, or like just for humans really during a hurricane that have been dislocated from their homes, and just like so they can go there and we can have humans and pets together, and the shelter may provide the medical team or the animal care team to take care of those animals during that situation, so we can help keep people together with their animals and provide the care that may be really helpful for them when they are on a shelter, right? Why that is so important? People will risk their lives to save their animals. This is a situation in Louisiana, right? That's gentlemen moving their ship like through the storms, through the floating, right? We need to do everything we can to help our community and really to help them stay together with their animals. People are going to stay in their homes if they don't have where to take their animals. They will go back to get their animals and put their lives at risk. So as an organization, like first, how much can I do to help them, right? Like with the situation with the pet shelter opening on Monday here from Charleston Animal Society. This was also like a human shelter for sheltering during hurricane, and the animals were allowed to come in. So that is a great thing that we can do, but we need to prepare for that as well. We need to talk with our legislators and all of that to be able to create these opportunities to keep people and animals together. Again, because there are so many examples of people that stay behind with their animals and they will not leave, and they will end up putting their lives at risk or even dying with their animals just because they were not abandoned. Most of us will be in the same place, like we'll not leave them behind. So it's all about thinking about how can we help our community. And disaster response, it's a cycle. There are some phases here that it's really important for us to keep in mind. First is mitigation, right? Is the ongoing preemptive activities to reduce the impacts of future disasters. So it's how can I mitigate? How I can decrease the chances of that impacting my shelter? Like, I don't know, is there any like doors? Is there any fireproof things that I can put? What are the things that I can do inside, or the plans of evacuation so I can leave, or relocation of the animals so I can lose, like if something happens, I don't lose lives and things like that, right? Is that growing mind, the growth mindset is always looking to how can I improve? How can I respond better? How can I mitigate the effects of any kind of disaster to make sure that I'm saving as many lives as possible? Preparedness, it's really creating the plans to handle any specific disaster in my area. It's knowing, okay, this is something that can happen here. So these are the plans, these are the things that I can put in place. And it's really it's not only about having a plan, it's practicing, right? All those drills, the fire drills that we hate, especially when a hotel 3 a.m, that the alarm goes off and then it's just a drill, like things like that. That is, we may think it's not important and we hate that when it wakes us up, but definitely it's so important because it's by practicing that we know what works, what doesn't. It's to know, because when we are freaking out because there is something happening, right, we will be able to really do something about it. Then we have a response, and I just saw here that it's out of order. This is the order of this is really like mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. So sorry about that. I will fix it. But it's that the order is really like you mitigate, you prepare, you respond, and then you recover, right? The event of the disaster is really between that preparedness and response. So you have something happening, and then you respond. And you're only going to be able to respond if you have a plan. And it's really like implementing your plan and adapting, because nothing works as perfect as one. So we need to adapt so we can continue moving forward. And then we have the recovery phase that is really like how we're going back to normal. And then we start everything again, because it's always like once we recovered, then we're going to look back at what worked, what didn't work, and we go to the next step and to the next steps and so on. So to be prepared is to have a plan, organize that plan, train, practice, and then evaluate and go back and improve. So it's really that cycle, always doing it. It needs to be on the top of our head what we need to do when disaster hits, because we're going to be freaking out. So we need to have something like an automatic response on how we're going to act and what's the next steps and so on, who is responsible for who and so on. So think about this. This is just another example, right? There is a potential flood, and all dogs were transferred out quickly. Information was not entered on your shelter software because of power outrage. Staff are unsure where each dog was relocated to. And one owner arrived to reclaim his Chihuahua. The dog is no longer in the facility. What do you do, right? So you have all the issues. You have storm, and you have a power out. You have a power outrage, and because of that, you didn't enter information on your software, and you move animals out, and someone's coming in to claim his Chihuahua that is no longer in the building. What do we do? Can you imagine that situation, right? And it happens a lot that after the storm or after things happen, people will come and look for their animals. And sometimes they have been relocated. And it happened like in my previous organization. And we just, wherever the dog is, we found the dog and we brought back. Because people know it may happen. So we should not transfer out to a long distance animals that are a stray hold or anything like that, right? You can move them around if you need to, because your building is going to be affected. But you need to be aware that if they are on stray hold, court cases, and all of that, they need to be around, because you need to be able to give them back to their owners, whatever the situation is. And sometimes you move dogs that were just out of stray holds and things like that. And after a storm, even if the animal got to the shelter before the storm, the owner comes and then trying to reunite those animals. It's really important to know where they are. So it's really about and this is really for us to talk about the importance of records, right? We need our documentation during our daily operations and during disaster. They need to be exceptional no matter what. But it's really when we are dealing with a disaster that sometimes we need to make decisions like animals are coming hurt. And we need to think about all of the things, right? I need to have an animal inventory that is perfect. I need to know every single animal that I have, that I'm caring for. Their records of everything that is happening with them needs to be really quickly updated. It doesn't need to be fancy, but we need to know what's happening. We need to be able to account for those animals and what's happening, picture of them, of all of those animals. And if we need to make euthanasia decisions for whatever reason, because those animals are so hurt that that's the humane thing to do with those animals, right? It's like if you can do that with two vets, that's the best idea, because then you have a green and it's easier to justify, because it's during the disaster, you don't have the owner present. So sometimes we need to make those decisions, but we need to make that very well documented and having someone to back you up on your decision if someone wants to fight that decision. Very important. Remember I talked about right at the beginning, incident command systems. It's really how an incident, there is a whole structure of how who answers who during disaster, right? You have all of that structure. And medical teams or even shelter teams, especially vets, right? I'll say that, we love to rule everything, to tell people what to do everything. And we have that thing that we like to run the show a lot of times when involve animals. And when we're doing disaster response, that we are part of a whole system, we are just one piece. right? We are answering people. We are not telling other people what to do. We are really focused on what our responsibilities. We're going to talk about that, and what we're going to do. And that goes along to all of the shelter staff that is involved in a potential, like really helping with the system, helping with the animals. The vet may be like the vets, of course, are important for some specific decisions, but of course, vet techs, animal care staff, all of you guys that are maybe involved in that. And the shelter, again, may be where the arrow is, right? Maybe just that piece of that incident command system. So it's very unlikely that we're running the whole show. We are just one part, very important one, but it's just one piece that we are acting and doing everything under the bigger system and really answering to the incident command system. Here is just like we talked about medical operations, right? Like, so let's talk about more about the care of those animals that are coming in, or we doing like a shelter in place elsewhere, how that happens, right? And this is very important for all the animals that are coming in. So we have a shelter, we evacuated our animals, or we are going to, like, let's say we are going to Asheville, North Carolina, to help with the response there. So we're going to be doing all the medical operations for a temporary shelter or for a shelter that is serving as, but it's really like, first thing, most important is safety, right? We need to be safe. We need to keep those animals safe, and we need to keep our staff safe. We need to follow those disaster response rules. And we're going to talk where we learn those, but it's really that incident command system. We need to follow what is being told us. We're not telling people what to do up there like they are telling us, because they have the broad view of the whole system, how everything is working. We need to know our legislation. What can I do? What can I not do in that area? I need to have, this is super, super important, relationship with the Department of Agriculture and vet state. I, as a vet, or I, as a shelter, I need to have a relationship with if I'm going to be involved, and even if I'm not, if it's just going to be part of, like, someone going to be like, there are disasters around me and I may need to be part of a response, right? I need to know my the vet, my state vet, not vet state vet. I need to know that person. I need to have a relationship, just know who they are and know what are the responsibilities. Know how involved your shelter is. I know of shelters that were listed as leads on the disaster response of a state, and the shelter didn't know, but the state, for some reason, the name was there. So that kind of thing. Know how the disaster response is in your state, in your area, and know who is the shelter, what is the shelter that is the lead, that may be involved, may not be involved, maybe in your shelter, in your state is not, there is no one listed, but just look for those things and make that relationship, because if you need to make a call, you can make that call easily. It's easier if we know them already, right? Make sure that we have, again, our records really well done, population management, right? Like all the records, but who I'm going to put where, how I'm going to set all the dogs and cats, right? Is there any concern there? How well I'm going to identify infectious disease and zoonotic disease coming in? What is the plan, right? How I'm going to prevent animal suffering? That's when I was talking about humane euthanasia. Sometimes some animals, like in a temporary shelter, there's not much we can do. Disaster, everything's floating around me. There are no vet clinics, no nothing. I cannot move. The only place is that temporary shelter. How do I care for those animals? How do I keep them? And how do I prevent suffering? And again, sometimes humane euthanasia may be the way, and I need to make everything really right and make sure that that is the right decision for that animal. So all of that, how I do. And the medical teams itself, right? Like, we need to do medical triage. Again, infectious disease, nowhere who goes. We need to mitigate stress. So really, humane handling is essential here, fear-free. Like, we need to know those things. We need to vaccinate. We need to quickly diagnose those animals to make sure that we're going to treat them and address however it needs to be addressed. We're going to stabilize as well as we can in those situations. We're going to euthanize if need be. How we're going to keep cleaning, how we're going to discontaminate animals, and how we're going to do our biosecurity, our PPE. Again, how we're going to keep animals safe. and staff as well, or whoever's working there, right? There are zoonotic diseases coming with those animals, and we don't want them getting sick. And by zoonotic diseases, I'm meaning diseases that can be transmitted from animals to people. Animal decontamination. This is like, it's an example. What do? You have a dog that is coming in that is wet with something. It's just a dog that is smelling. It's an odd smell. You don't know. It's very wet, and I don't know what that is. Can I put that dog in the general population? Do I need to bathe that dog with shampoo? What do I need to do? It's really important to know those things, right? We need to think about it. Sometimes we don't. Oh, it's smelling bad. I'm going to just get whatever shampoo I have, and I'm just going to wash that dog. And sometimes that is not the best thing. We don't know what's going on. We don't know the shampoo that we are using. So maybe just getting like a detergent, a degreaser detergent that we can really just wash those animals with lukewarm water, like just make sure, sometimes just water, just let it like really rinse really well if you don't know, right? Use PPEs, protect yourself. We don't want to really put ourselves again at risk. We don't know what that is, so we really need to make sure that we are protecting ourselves. So full PPEs, bathe them, and maybe those animals need to be housed in a different location and not in general population because we don't know what's going on. Smoke inhalation, right? This is just like example of LA fires last year, and that is so important. This is just behind our LA building there, and this is just the animals that were being transported to our New York center for adoption. But definitely, like, we need to know, right? And there is such a big thing, especially with dogs that are coming, or cats, animals that are coming from these situations, right? Sometimes they are completely healthy. Sometimes they look and they are just like, oh, it's fine, it's healthy. I don't need to worry about it. Just put it there. But animals that are exposed to house fires, they may appear really like healthy, but they may be suffering from serious internal injuries, like especially in their lungs, because of all that smoke that is coming in, all the toxic gas exposure, and thermal damage of their airways. So sometimes they look completely healthy when they come in, but we need to make sure that we are keeping eye on them, and we are really like cannot just put them in a cage and forget about them, right? LA fires are really big, but sometimes it's just a house fire that just 2 or 3 animals are coming from. So those kind of things. This is the biggest one. I think this is, for us, it's always a risk. Can you imagine, like, you are in the middle of, like, it was, oh God, it's not Matthew, I forgot that, but this is Houston. We were having like, it's really like floating thunderstorm, oh God, hurricanes that was coming through. This is a situation where they end up having a distemper outbreak in the temporary shelter. And we are talking about 800 animals, 140 tested positive for distemper. And it's really like, why outbreaks happen, right? Of course, it's chaotic. Animals are coming in and it's just moving them in. So biosecurity, right? Like PPEs, gowns, and all of that. But we need to remember that the dogs, they are coming to the shelters, our community animals. This is a study done in Florida a few years back, but it's just only 54%, 57% of the dogs and 88% of the puppies were unprotected for distemper during that period of time, that study. But it's just thinking about how important vaccines is. We need to vaccinate them as soon as they are coming in, the same way we do in the shelter, because partial protection is better than none. So even if it's just one dose, it's better than nothing. So really, like, if we are putting dogs that from different places coming in and we don't know from where, we don't know their health status, we don't know anything, we need to make sure that we are vaccinating and as soon as they're coming in, the same way we do when they are in when they're coming in the shelter. So that is extremely important for us not to forget. We don't want to be dealing with floating outside and 800 animals exposed to distemper, right? And 140 testing positive. It's just like a very difficult situation. And this dog here, it was Dr. Aaron's dog. It's Franklin, that came from It was one of the dogs that was adopted. She adopted from that situation. She was the one leading the response there in Houston at that time. And here, like as I said, like several trainings, right? I think we have a lot of options. But if we want to be part, if we want to be ready to respond, being deployed to a response or doing that well in our location, our community, in our shelter, there are several things. FEMA, we have all of this, and we're going to send you all those links, so don't worry about that. But we have like all of those trainings that we need to be doing, right? It's a list of them. They are not that long. It doesn't take too long. It's free. But yes, just do it because you need to do the FEMA trainings. We have all of our best friends again. Like we have this QR code here, our emergency response team. Like we have great stuff there for you guys, but we have also quite a few trainings that are available for you guys as well, that you can be like really getting in depth in all of those things that we talk about. We have like these different things. If you want to know more specifics about diseases, we do have the Center for Food Security and Public Health of the Iowa State University. They have great, the website is really good, and we can talk about some specific diseases that can happen during disasters and how to protect, what to look for. We do have the the veterinary emergency team from the ATM. It's great as well. With this QR code, the bigger one is the ASV guidelines. If you don't have it yet, it's a great resource. But there are like quite a few things that I'm going to be sending to you guys. You definitely look into those resources. There's a lot to learn. But again, it's better to be prepared a lot, but it's not overwhelming. And it's not like those are like mostly are short kind of trainings. Do it. Worth being prepared. We want to save the lives of our shelters, of our animals in our shelters. We want to be able to help other shelters. We don't want to go through a situation as they did in Mississippi a few years ago. And all of us for sure can know a lot of stories of shelters that went through situations like that, or because they were hit in a way that they couldn't prepare, or because they were unprepared. So know what you're going to do with your animals, what you're going to do with your staff, what you're going to do with your family when it hits, because it's going to hit, and we definitely don't want to go through any situation that we're going to lose lives that we after knew that we could have saved them. So this is the message. It will happen at some time, and we just want to make sure that you guys are protected. So just get on some training there, and let's go save more lives by doing some good disaster response there. So thank you. I don't know if you guys have any questions. I saw there was one question in the Q&A, and I can go there. Have you had dogs with rabies quarantine to go out to foster? Oof. This is definitely, if you have, it's a situation that it depends on if you have your shelter is going to be hit by something, right? There is a fire coming and it's going to get your shelter. If you can justify, it's always good to check again with your vet state, your state. Your vet state director. Why I kept confusing those, all mixing. But it's really like make sure check with your Department of Health. What do you do? But I'm sure that in situations where the lives are going to be at risk, imminent risk, they're going to die, I'm sure that you can move them to foster homes. I don't think that they will appreciate those animals burning or drowning in your shelter. So I think that is definitely always clarify with the Department of Health, but I do believe that they will really appreciate you moving them somewhere else. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Paulo. I really appreciate that. Oh, I will not speak in Portuguese with you because other people will not understand what we are saying, but definitely, yeah, my contact is here. We do have on the next slide that I should have shown. This is Emmanuel. It's Manuel, actually. This is a dog that was it was a foster of mine during like we were just evacuating, and I just love this picture because I was taking him to pee outside and he almost went with a hurricane. He was so small, so I just love the picture. So here it is, Becca B at bestfriends.org, and definitely just feel free to reach out. If you have any questions about shelter medicine, you can email us at sheltermedicine@bestfriends.org, or just keep that email address with you guys, our emergency response at bestfriends.org, our emergency services. Just feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions. Reach out to me or to them. Again, they know much more than I do, even though I love to talk about it. Any questions? If anybody has any additional questions, feel free to ask or just email us whenever you want to. Oh, I had something coming up. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you all. Really appreciate you guys again attending, and hope to see you guys soon on our next session. What's going to be next time, Mel? Do you remember on top of your head? I love to put Mel on spot, like just saying. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, you are muted, Mel. You are muted, Mel. Like, oh, muted.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
I was having a technical issue. Next month is actually rethinking community engagement. So
Ooh,
all about getting the community involved. So definitely stay tuned for
love
that.
it.
And we will send out some information about it in a little
Sweet.
while. Okay.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Thank you.